The Quality Learing Center gets a lesson on what happens when you try to scam American taxpayers. Over 20 Somali-run businesses, including childcare facilities and the infamous Learing Center, were raided by FBI agents this morning as part of federal fraud investigations in Minneapolis. The raids come months after journalist Nick Shirley exposed the daycare centers with his viral video of facilities that were either closed or didn't have a child in sight, despite receiving federal funding. Vice President J.D. Vance issued a warning to the fraudsters taking advantage of the American taxpayer, writing on X, the task force and the DOJ will be relentless in exposing these fraudsters wherever they may be hiding. Jason, I mean, we're seeing that there's also the cooperation of Democrats on this, calling in these, that they saw that there was unregular behavior when it came to these facilities. So it's happening. There's a real deal here. What do you think is going to be the result of all of this?
So, I guess we'll see. I think anytime you think that there's fraud, it's worthy of investigation. So, investigate it. What I don't like and what it seems like is that particular ethnic communities are being targeted, and they're talking about Somali fraud rather than just fraud in the state. And, as I've said, this is something that stretches back to at least 2022 when some other people were already convicted and gone to prison. The ringleader was not Somali. So I think anytime we can catch fraud, whether it's in Minneapolis or whether it's in Mississippi or whether it's in Lakewood, New Jersey, we go and we try to find it.
So in 2022, I believe, Foldy, that in Minnesota, they actually even had Medicaid fraud up to $300 million. I mean, it's never ending in Minnesota. What is going on?
So first off, a quick alphabet lesson to those at the Learing Center because they're not learning anything. You just need to know the letters F-A, F-O, and that is basically now what is happening to those at the Learing Center and elsewhere. What's happening here is that for years, these people were able to bilk taxpayers out of hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars in many of these cases. And Jason is right, some people have been arrested, but not enough. Because it's not just Somali fraud, there's a lot of Somali fraud that we're talking about here, but there's Armenian fraud that we discussed, Azerbaijani fraud in the hospice cares in California. And I want to say, you mentioned that some Democrats are working with the Trump administration on this. This is just Tim Walz's latest stolen valor. This guy was governor when they had the Feeding Our Future scandal. The guy presided over the whole thing, and Kamala Harris said, you know what, he should still be my vice president.
You're being too tough on Tim Walz, okay? Because Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is now trying to take credit for the crackdown after years of allowing the fraud to occur under his watch, writing, if you commit fraud in Minnesota, you're going to get caught. And that's exactly what we saw today. We catch criminals when state and federal agencies share information. Joint investigations work, and securing justice depends on it.
If he meant that, he would cooperate with ICE, by the way.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was going to say. What a shift in tone coming from the governor, Tim Walz.
I agree with Jason. I think the big mistake here is to think this is Somali fraud. There's a lot of Somali fraud, but there's a lot of all kinds of fraud. And the fact is Tim Walz isn't going to run for governor in Minnesota because he knew that he oversaw this disaster area. And I think we have fraud that's endemic throughout the country because we've allowed the government to be the solution to every problem. And we've thrown money at it. And you know who's really to blame for that? Republicans, as well as Democrats. There were plenty of times when there was Republican chairmen and Republicans were signing midnight budget deals and they weren't conducting the proper oversight. This is why we need to pass appropriations bills, have hearings, and Republicans as well as Democrats need to do their job in looking at every penny they appropriate.
Ashley, what's fascinating to me is that you've seen the incredible work by citizen journalist Nick Shirley, which I do think has led to further investigations happening, as well as the FBI getting involved. Tell us your perspective on that.
Yeah, I wish, this is how government works. It takes a while. We're finally seeing the raids kind of happen. It feels like months ago at this point that they were, actually, bringing this out on Nick Shirley's video at this point. So it was the winter of love, as we like to call it. Basically, that was all occurring there. But basically with these Learing Centers, the FBI has cut it off at this point. We'll see what goes forward with how the fraud works. But at the root of the problem, it's Democrat policies and turning a blind eye to I guess the fraud that's happening. And because guess what? They're getting money a lot of these times in these campaigns.